Okay, so like I said, we're going to talk about hormonal regulation next. The hormonal regulation part is just going to be this slide and the next slide. But you should know all of the hormones and structures or organs that are going to be responsible for the production of sperm and the production of testosterone. So first of all, the hypothalamus is going to release a releasing hormone called gonadotropin releasing hormone. So this GnRH, do not confuse it with GHRH, which we talked about before, which is growth hormone releasing hormone. GnRH, lowercase n, RH is gonadotropin releasing hormone. And this is going to get released by cells of the hypothalamus, so hypothalamic neurons. Do you remember that word before? We talked about it with the endocrine system. Hypothalamic neurons are going to be releasing gonadotropin releasing hormone right here towards the anterior pituitary. And you should remember that this releasing hormone is considered a neurohormone. And it's considered a neurohormone because it's released by a neuron, but it's not a neurotransmitter because it does not transport across a cleft from one cell to another. It actually is transported in the blood. So there are capillaries here within the anterior pituitary that are going to transport gonadotropin releasing hormone. So again, we call it a neurohormone. So it's not a neurotransmitter, even though it's produced by a neuron, because it travels in the blood. Okay. So gonadotropin releasing hormone is going to target cells of the anterior pituitary, and the anterior pituitary is going to release two hormones. We have follicle stimulating hormone, or FSH, and luteinizing hormone, or LH. So you should know that FSH is going to promote spermatogenesis, so the production of sperm. You can see it here in step 3. Well, first of all, step 2, gonadotropin releasing hormone causes the anterior pituitary gonadotropic cells to release FSH and LH, which is why I said here. And then FSH indirectly stimulates spermatogenesis by causing cystinocytes, which is going to be the third type of cell that we find within the seminiferous tubules. If we go back, I said you only had to know 2 for the last video, but we should know the third one, which is here, cystinocytes. So these cystinocytes are going to be producing another chemical called ABP. So ABP stands for androgen binding hormone. Remember, testosterone is a type of androgen. So ABP, actually I'll write this, ABP stands for androgen. Again, testosterone is a type of androgen, androgen binding protein. And that androgen binding protein, what it does, it keeps concentrations or the number or the amount of testosterone high in this area in order to promote spermatogenesis. So FSH, draw a little flow chart here. FSH, which is released by the anterior pituitary, is going to lead to the release of ABP, which is released by the cystinocytes, and that's going to cause us to keep testosterone high, which is going to lead to lots of little spermie. So it's going to lead to spermatogenesis. But you should know, again, this is going to be secreted by the anterior pituitary. This is going to be released by cystinocytes. This androgen binding protein is what keeps testosterone levels high so that we can produce lots of sperm. Okay. On the other hand, we have LH, or luteinizing hormone. It's called luteinizing hormone because of its function in the female, which it has functions with what's called the corpus luteum, which we're going to talk about on Thursday. But that's why it's called luteinizing hormone, because of its function in the female reproductive system. But it does also have functions in the male reproductive system. And what it's going to do, it's going to trigger the production of or secretion of testosterone. Testosterone. Okay. And that production of testosterone is going to be essential for spermatogenesis, which we have that right here. So another little flow chart for this would just be that LH, which is also secreted by the anterior pituitary, is going to really lead to the production or secretion of testosterone by interstitial cells, which is then going to lead to, again, more sperm production or spermatogenesis. So again, LH is going to get released by the anterior pituitary. Testosterone is going to be secreted by interstitial cells. Yeah, this was not smart using the pin for this part. Interstitial cells, which is going to lead to more sperm production. So again, you should know both of these things, that FSH leads to the release of ABP by cystinocytes, which keeps testosterone levels high, which promotes spermatogenesis. Luteinizing hormone is released by the anterior pituitary, which triggers the secretion of testosterone by interstitial cells, which also promotes spermatogenesis. So these two hormones, FSH and LH, have a synergistic relationship. They both work together in order to keep sperm production high. Okay. Now that's not the, that's not the only thing that testosterone works on. So for step number 5, it says testosterone acts at other parts of the body. So it is in control or does influence secondary sex characteristics. So secondary sex characteristics that are going to be influenced by testosterone include pubic and facial and axillary hair growth, so in the armpits. Also, it's going to trigger hair growth in other areas for some males, so areas like the chest or back, so chest and other places for hair growth in some males, not all of them. This is going to trigger also an enlarged larynx, which is going to account for the deeper voice in the male, and also the more pronounced prominence, a laryngeal prominence. So that's why they always say that males have an Adam's apple, but both males and females have it. Both of us have the laryngeal prominence. However, in males, it is bigger because they have an enlarged larynx due to the influence of testosterone. Also, they're going to have thick and oily skin, more thick and more oily than women, which is why males, especially during puberty, are more prone to acne. It's also going to help with the increase in bone density. It's also going to influence the increase in size and mass of skeletal muscles, which is why men tend to be larger and stronger in general than women. Not that we can't be large and strong too, but just for the baseline, they are going to have, on average, an increased bone density and increased skeletal muscle size and mass compared to women. Okay. And I think, and one other thing to mention is that there is negative feedback that is at play here when it comes to the release of these hormones. So if we do have enough levels of testosterone and enough levels of sperm being produced, and we don't want to go over that, there's going to be an inhibition that happens so that we decrease the release of FSH and LH in order to keep levels normal. So we don't want too much testosterone production. We don't want too much sperm production, not outside of our normal range. So there is a negative feedback loop at play here that will inhibit the release of FSH and LH if our levels are too high. Okay, and that's it for hormone regulation here. I do want to talk a little bit about the maturation of sperm, and then that'll be it for this particular video. Okay, so this shows the maturation of our sperm cells. So I just want you to know some of these terms here. Let's see, I don't want you to know some of these terms here. So you should know what a spermatogonium is. The spermatogonium is the stem cell. So this is our starting point. Spermatogonium, again, is a stem cell. We do have spermatocytes. These are going to, we're going to have spermatocytes during meiosis. So during meiosis, I should have typed that. That does not look good. So this is going to be during meiosis. And then you have spermatids, okay, which is going to be during maturation. And for most of this, these sperm are going to be non-motile. As you can see, the early versions of these spermatids don't even have tails yet. During the late phase, they will have tails, and they are going to hang out from the seminiferous tubules, like we saw before, and I'll go back and show you again. And then the fully matured and motile version is a spermatozoa. Okay, so spermatogonium is the stem cell version that has not gone through meiosis just yet. During meiosis, they're going to be called spermatocytes. I don't need you to know the difference between a primary or a secondary spermatocyte. Just know spermatocytes occur during meiosis. During the maturation process, we have spermatids, okay, and then a fully matured sperm cell is called a spermatozoa. And that's pretty much it. I do want to show you in the previous video, you can see when they are spermatids, they do have these little tails. So these tails are gonna be sticking out as they are developing and growing and maturing. And once they are fully matured and ready to be released within a seminiferous tubule, they will be released, and then they'll swim along their way through the ready testis. And there's actually a diagram or a picture I'm going to show you next that actually shows here are these little tails that are sticking out. And remember, our stem cells or our youngest cells are going to be up here closest to the edge here, away from the lumen. And I'll actually make a different color so you can see better. Away from the lumen, and then they're going to mature and develop in this direction. And then once they're fully matured into a full spermatozoa, then they're going to be released into the lumen of the seminiferous tubule. And then remember that our interstitial cells are going to be located in between the seminiferous tubules, and they're going to be responsible for producing that testosterone that's going to promote this spermatogenesis here. Okay, that's it for that video. Next, we're going to talk about the DEC system for the males.